For our meeting today, we will continue our theme from last month and stay focused on the cleanest form of energy, energy that is never generated, or energy efficiency. Our guest speaker today is Jennifer Alldredge, a program manager for the Alliance to Save Energy. She will share with us some of the great work of the nonprofit Alliance and how the organization engages schools to save money and save energy. I think her presentation will be particularly valuable in preparing our team members to be able to discuss energy efficiency with school district staff as part of the package you discuss in transitioning to clean energy. Jennifer Alldredge works with nationwide K-12 schools involved in the Alliance to Save Energy's PowerSave Schools program, as well as the National Energy Hog program. She educates and trains students from elementary through college level about energy efficiency practices for home and school, and she advises school employees to help schools save money on energy-related expenses. Jennifer is also involved in educating adults in the Knoxville citywide low-income energy efficiency home retrofit program. Additionally, Jennifer has 20 years experience in various forms of education, from counseling to teaching in grades pre-K through 12. Jennifer is also a lead Green Associate and GreenFaith Fellow, and she sits on several local boards, including U.S. Green Building Council and Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light. So before I hand it over to Jennifer, I want to note that all attendees will stay on mute during the presentation. And if you have a question, please type your question into the question box in your control panel, and you can do that anytime during the presentation. At the end of the presentation, I will call on each team for questions and call on any others who've submitted questions in the control panel. So Jennifer, thank you for joining us today, and I will now pass the screen over to you.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, hey everybody, and thank you all so much for coming out on what's probably a very nice warm Sunday. Again, my name is Jennifer Alldredge, and I work for the Alliance to Save Energy. So I thought I'd start out by making sure that folks are a little bit aware of what the Alliance is and what exactly it is that we do. The Alliance to Save Energy has been around since 1977. It was originally formed by two senators, Senator Humphrey and Senator Percy. So we had a Republican and a Democrat. And they came together in 1977 following the OPEC oil crisis because they believed very sincerely that energy was something that everyone should be concerned about. And here we are 41 years later, and we're still seeing the same things, that everybody should be concerned about this regardless of what your political affiliation is. And that's how the Alliance operates. Our headquarter offices are in Washington, D.C., although I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and telecommute when I need to be talking with my offices. But for the most part, I'm just out and about both here, and I do travel around to mostly places east of the Mississippi, as we also have staff out in California. The Alliance itself is still made up of lots of individuals that are concerned about energy. We do have an honorary advisory board that is made up of representatives and senators that have come together. We try to make sure that we have almost as close to a 50-50 split between Democrats and Republicans as we possibly can, so that we're hearing all voices and making sure that everybody is included at the table. Also, our board of directors, which is more of our active board, is made up of heads of industry from really across all sectors. And hopefully you're seeing on your slides the faces of some of these individuals that are involved with our current board. But what should be coming up right now is what some of the different organizations are that are a part of our board member and that are active participants within the Alliance itself. And it's everything from utility providers to commercial businesses to technology to education. We have everybody is represented, and all of these voices are heard with the goal, strict goal of moving towards reducing our energy consumption. In fact, that really is our imperative. We want to be sure that, particularly in the United States, we are very, very focused on being thoughtful about how our energy is being used and making sure that everybody is included and everyone's voice is included in that energy efficiency conversation. So the work that the Alliance primarily focuses in on, of course, they're in DC, so they do focus a lot on policy work, as you can see from this just sort of general slide that outlines some of the things they do. We're also involved with research because we want to be sure that we are looking at what is the most current piece of technology or energy efficiency opportunities that are available to us. And the third leg of the stool, if you will, is in the education sector. And our flagship program with the Alliance is our PowerSave Schools program itself. So that's really what I focus in on, is more of the education side of things rather than the policy and all of the research elements. The two pieces that I work with are the PowerSave Schools portion and something that's called Savings in the House. PowerSave Schools has been around since the mid-1990s, when one of our vice presidents at the Alliance realized that while we were doing a really good job of talking about energy efficiency and working on the Hill, we were neglecting the next generation of energy consumers, and that was going to be the students. So she really started a program which we then called Green Schools, because at that point, not everything on the planet was called green something. We've changed the name to PowerSave Schools because we really do focus in on energy, although we certainly support any form of sustainable living choices. Savings in the House is a completely different program, and it is quite specific to the area in which I live. This was started by the city of Knoxville, and I won't go into the long details, but basically we were looking at problems that adults were having with managing their utility bills in this city, and we wanted to be sure that everybody was able to stay in their homes and be able to live a happy, comfortable, productive life. So the best way to do that was to help folks reduce the amount of energy that they needed, so they weren't spending as much for their utility bills and were able to have a better quality of life and more comfortable homes. So Savings in the House is part of a partnership that occurred between the city of Knoxville, our Community Action Committee, the Knox County Community Action Committee, our local power company, and the Alliance to Save Energy. And these four entities got together, and we were able to obtain a grant from our electricity provider, which is the Tennessee Valley Authority, in order to reduce the amount of energy that low-income families were needing by weatherizing their homes. My portion of this was by educating every single person that walked in the door to apply for these opportunities, and making sure that they knew how they could be the ones that could affect change in their own homes by reducing energy even after the home had had a complete retrofit. We were able to manage to retrofit over 1,200 homes in this area, and the work is still going on. Even though that particular program closed last fall, we're still seeing lots of need, and so lots of organizations locally are continuing to retrofit them. I personally am going around and still continuing to do 1-hour workshops in order to teach people how to reduce their utility bills. And I'll get a little bit more into that in just a minute. So, setting up the problem. You see the problem with our low income, and actually it's true for any adults, and I don't restrict anybody that comes to any of my workshops, because everybody can always find ways of reducing their utility bills at home. However, in schools, we recognize that there's also a need, because there's a tremendous amount of money that's being spent on schools annually for energy. And even though many schools are undergoing significant retrofits, particularly with lighting and heating and air conditioning systems, it's still estimated that approximately a quarter of that is being wasted, and it's all due to the practices of predominantly the adults within the building. So we really want to make sure that we are addressing those issues and getting down to the core piece of this. For most of the students that we work with, energy is invisible. Now, obviously, they see the results of energy. They know if they flip on a switch, the lights are going to come on, the computer's going to come up, but they're not really aware of what goes into that process. And that's true of many adults as well. I mean, they know if they set their thermostat to a certain thing, it's theoretically going to heat or cool their home to a certain temperature. But what has gone into that is elusive for many of them. And we found that by teaching about this, they start really understanding what is going to be happening, what is going on within their homes. And there we go. So we want to create those lasting behavior changes. My apologies, my slides are getting a little tweaky here. And the best way to facilitate this type of change is by making all the pieces of energy, including just simple awareness of that energy, something that the people we work with think about every single day. Because if you're thinking about it, you're 10 times more likely to turn that light off when you're leaving the room, or to think about what kind of set point that you're putting onto your thermostats. And that awareness is what's really going to change those behaviors, the behaviors that you have. We say second nature habits. When I was a kid, when I would get into the car, seatbelts were not always even present. They were somewhat optional. But today's child, when they get into a car, that's the first thing that they think about. It is not something that they even are aware that they're doing. And that's the kind of response that we try to generate within the students as well as the adults that we work with, is to make sure that this becomes something that they do automatically without even thinking about it, that they're constantly aware of that. So the way we go about doing this is by making sure that we are pushing the right buttons, that we're making sure that everything that we say is not creating barriers, but instead is actually making a direct connection with what is something that this individual or group of individuals care about. For most students, it's the environment. I have yet to meet an elementary school age kid who does not really want to do what is best for their environment, what is best for the world around them. They truly do care. And this picture that you hopefully are seeing on your slide of a polar bear is something that will really tug at the heartstrings of most children. When we get to adults, while there are many who obviously care still a great deal about the environment, there are also other factors that they take into consideration. They take in the economics of their situation. They take in comfort levels. They take in health. There's so many other pieces of the puzzle. So when we're working with the adults within our schools, and also when I'm working with them in Savings in the House, we want to make sure that we not only just talk about environment, but actually really focus more on the monetary side of things and the comfort side of things as far as that individual is concerned. For us, in terms of the Alliance, we are very fortunate because it doesn't really matter whether what pushes your button is something like climate change, or whether it's something like just general environmentalism, or whether you're really concerned about making sound business choices. All of those elements are taken care of if you reduce the amount of energy that you're using. Now, I do want to be sure that we are really clear about the differences between energy efficiency and weatherization, which are a big part of what I do, and I'm sure that you all are, so I'm not going to dwell on this too much. But when it comes to energy efficiency at the Alliance, we are talking about conservation as well as the efficiency side of things. So the conservation side is turning a light off when you're leaving a room because you no longer need that light on, as opposed to the efficiency side, which means you put an LED light bulb in that particular lamp. So you're doing the same amount of work lighting your room, but you're using less energy to do that. That's where the efficiency piece comes in. With the weatherization side, we do look at the homes as individual structures, and this is the same thing within school buildings, and what can be done to enhance that building in order for you to need less energy in order to remain comfortable within that space. So our goals with the PowerSave schools are really to talk to the students about energy. We provide hands-on and real-world learning opportunities, and that's the critical piece with this. Students want to do something real. They get a lot of questions when they're in school that are designed to elicit a specific response. Energy efficiency doesn't have any one particular path that they have to take. So they really are finding that through energy efficiency programs that they can make a significant difference. And it's not just something eliciting a response. It's a real world solution. Every single thing they do, even if it's just turning off one light, they realize that that is doing something that's making a difference within their school. They're reducing the amount of money that the school is needing to operate, which certainly is helpful for the facilities folks and for those who are managing budgets. And the students obviously take this stuff home. I've had so many parents who've come up to me and said, what the heck are my children learning here? They keep following me around the house, turning everything off the minute that I walk out of the room. And it's like, that's exactly what we want them to do. And that's where we want them to be going with this, is taking their knowledge home and applying it there in order to have the same opportunities at home. Part of our program also involves engaging students in a better understanding about what the energy field is, because this is a growing part of our local economy, and it's within the United States. There are going to be jobs that are available for these children that weren't available when some of the existing adults were kids, because of the way energy is becoming such a big focus within our country and globally as well. With the savings in the house, it's really the same thing. I just wanted to hit on that, except a reminder that our focus is much more about comfort. We want people to be comfortable within their homes. They'll be saving energy, and they will also be educating others in their communities, because people like to talk to each other. And all of the people that I have worked with have shared their experiences and their savings with their neighbors and their family and friends. With the PowerSave schools, one of the things I did want to make sure was clear is that while our focus of attention is on the students themselves, we can't do it without the adults. And this is actually where a lot of y'all may be finding some opportunities too. Every one of our schools program has a dedicated Alliance staff member that is involved with them. Currently, for example, I work with a district with a group of schools. There's 31 of them up in New Jersey. Now, I don't live in New Jersey, so we actually have a local person who is in that space who works with those schools, and I am helping to support that work as well as support that individual. The keys is to get the right people in place. Sometimes that's an administrator who is really definitely a right person. Every school that we go into, we want to be sure that we get the principal or principals involved. We want to make sure that they understand what is going to be happening, because this is also an educational opportunity for their students. It's not just about reducing the money that the school is spending. It's actually helping to further their education in the STEM fields, or in the STEAM fields as we use down here. So getting the administration to buy into the program is very critical so that they can continue to support the teacher. But really, our primary focus is on the academic teacher. You've got to find that one person within the school. It doesn't matter what they teach. One of my most successful PowerSave Schools programs up in Chicago was led by the librarian, because she worked with every single student that was in the school she knew them all, and she could sort of select those who she knew would be really, really positively impacted by this kind of program. And since she knew them all and had a different kind of schedule, she was able to really engage with them. She was also extremely committed environmentalist in her personal life. So this to her was like sharing a piece of who she was with the students. You'll find that though with all sorts of different teachers in the school, the key is to find the one who really cares about this, regardless of what it is they're teaching. It is a natural for us to first go to those teachers who are most engaged in teaching energy. A lot of times fourth grade, at least where I live, that's the year where a lot of energy is being taught in the elementary schools. When we start getting into the middle and high schools, we look for somebody who is teaching a science class or something that has an environmental component to it, because it's something that's going to be easy for them to figure out how to adapt. Included on our adult team is always going to be a member of the custodial staff. They know where stuff is, and they understand what kind of wattage the light bulbs are using, and where things are stored, and how the heating and air conditioning system operates. It's also a great opportunity for the students to start understanding the roles that different adults within their buildings are playing. And the custodian is a key role because they represent the facilities and the building side of this space that the students are spending so much time in. And of course, finding the right students is also critical. With our PowerSave programs, they're frequently after-school clubs so that we can have students from different grade levels be involved with the program. Obviously, that doesn't always work. I've worked with preschools, and they don't have as much flexibility when it comes to the education side of any after-school care. So sometimes they've been classrooms full of students, and that's what the teacher is particularly focused in on. I've even had schools where, because of the lateness of the start time, the students meet before school. They meet at lunch. There's all sorts of ways of getting these students together. The key is to get them together and then to train them on some of the different elements that they can use to reduce energy. One of the key things for the students is to understand how is energy being used in their school. And as you can see by this chart, obviously this is not a chart that would be used in the southwestern portion of the country because they don't have the heating component with it. But in certainly where I am and in the eastern side of the Mississippi, this tends to be relatively close to true. You can see here that the heating and the air conditioning systems within a school are really their primary area. But with students, when we're first starting with them, we always focus in on lighting. Lighting is easy. It is easy to manipulate. All they have to do is flip a switch. And the students start to learn that even if their school has higher technology elements that involve motion sensors that we're turning off the lights, they still need to be very vigilant about being sure that A, those motion sensors are working, and B, that they're not leaving the lights on for an exorbitant amount of time. So we try to focus in on that before we start going into some of the more complex ways that students can reduce their energy use. When it comes to working with adults, the breakdown is actually not all that dissimilar. However, I tend to focus in on heating and air conditioning because that goes directly to comfort levels. And also with 44% of an average utility bill going towards your heating and your air conditioning, it's a great way to do just one thing, like changing your thermostat settings and having that one thing have a significant impact on the amount of money that you're needing to spend monthly, as well as maintaining your comfort levels. We do teach our students, and we don't do this so much with the adults, but we give our students professional auditing tools so that they better understand what that role is. And we teach them how to use this. And this is where the student engagement piece comes in, because every single school that I've gone into is slightly different. There are different opportunities that exist for the students for them to uncover when they're using professional tools. They don't listen to me and have me tell them what's going on. They can instead uncover this for themselves. Professional tools are a great opportunity for students. However, they can also ask the right questions. They can ask a custodian, what is the wattage of a light bulb, without actually having to test it. And they can start exploring the comfort levels, even through simple surveys of asking people, are you comfortable within this space? So they don't need professional auditing tools. It's just with PowerSave that makes it a much easier process. And this gives them the chance then to not only monitor what's going on within their schools, but at the end of the day, we expect the students to make the recommendations to the administration, to school boards, to whomever that they can talk to, in order for them to hear what the students think needs to be done in order to reduce the amount of energy that's being used within the school. We have another program that I'll just address very quickly. It's called our Energy Hog program, and we use this in conjunction with our PowerSave schools. As you can see here, he is a very unattractive guy. A lot of people have mascots for the schools, and usually the mascots exhibit behaviors that you want to imitate. The Energy Hog is exactly the opposite. The Energy Hog does exactly what you don't want to see him doing, because we want the students that are involved with these programs to be the ones who are the superhero. So we give them a super villain, something that wants to waste energy in order for the students to be the one that takes on this role. We do have a website for the Energy Hog, and the picture in the lower center shows that this is an award-winning program that we received 2 years ago from the Asian Pacific Economic Corporation for sustainable education best practices. The Energy Hog is actually, he's wonderful because he does inspire students to write him letters. And I've run competitions where we have literacy or writing competitions where they can write letters to the Energy Hog that are assessed so they can practice persuasive writing skills. They do research to explain to the Energy Hog why he shouldn't be doing what he's doing. In the left-hand side of the screen, we had digital technology class, and the class used the Energy Hog as a prompt. Students had to come up with something for him. And in the lower part of it, even a high school student who wanted to be a singer decided to do a rap, and she rapped a musical, she wrote her own music and then did a rap with the Energy Hog to explain to him why that Energy Hog should stop wasting energy. So just to wrap up, we have a lot of success stories when it comes to the programs that we operate. I'm going to focus in on just two. One is a schools program where students went around after seeing the Energy Hog. They decided to find out what are the biggest problems that they had in their school. Then the problems that they discovered was that computers were being left on, lights were being left on when nobody was in the classroom, and that doors and windows were open during HVAC, when the HVAC system was operating. So they would put little tags on doors if anybody was caught wasting energy or creating energy hogs, and they would check whichever box this was. And this program went on for almost an entire academic year, since we had kicked it off very early on. And long story short, the school wound up reducing their energy load by approximately 23%, just from focusing in on 3 very simple activities that the students were able to uncover and then address properly. The chart on the right-hand side is from the savings in the house. And I use this particular chart because it shows, you can see that the home received a retrofit on or about the 1st of December in 2015. That's when the construction for the home started, and it was completed where the red line is. But you'll notice that the orange, hopefully it looks like orange, the top line is how much energy this particular individual was using. The blue line was how much energy they should have been using based on weather conditions and the size of the home. The star indicates when that person went to an energy efficiency workshop. And you can see that they got it. They understood what it was that they personally were supposed to do in order to start reducing their energy load. And we've seen this across the board. It's these simple behavioral changes get people going in the right direction, and they can start reducing the amount of energy that they need in order to maintain their comfort within their space. So I appreciate everybody listening to me. Thank you very much. This is my contact information for you. And if I'm going to turn this back over to see if there's any questions or anything else I can answer.
Great, thank you so much, Jennifer. I will open it up to the audience to see if anyone has any questions. So please feel free to type in a question. What I can do is, I know there are some of you who are online on your own and some of you who have gathered in your meeting spots. So I will start with the DC team, and I'll check in with Marley and see if anyone there has questions.
I don't think so. No.
Marley, can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I don't think we have any questions right now, but we'll let you know if we do.
Okay, great. How about our New York team? Ivy, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We don't have any questions, but Josh has something that he wanted to share. I don't know if now is the right time.
Yes, so Josh, I don't know if you're talking about your grassroots victory, but we'll do that right after the Q&A.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tish.
Okay, great. And then let's see if anyone else has any questions or comments. Maybe type it into the question box. But while we're waiting, Jennifer, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I know a lot of people who do this kind of energy work talk about prioritizing energy efficiency before adding clean energy. So, kind of reducing your demand, and you'll be able to kind of right size your solar system or a clean energy system accordingly. I would love to hear in your experience how schools have worked with energy efficiency and clean energy, and is it always in that order, or what are some models of how you've seen both implemented well in schools?
Sure. I think energy efficiency is always where you're going to start, and I think energy efficiency is always where you're going to be. Even if you have clean energy, I have actually been in a school that was a net zero school, and despite the fact that they were not, they had solar panels, they had some geothermal, they even had a little bit of wind power that they were using. However, they also had a student team that was dedicated toward energy efficiency best practices. So even though the school had all the right tools to be able to reduce the amount of energy they need, or at least have their energy provided by clean energy sources, they still had to work on the behavioral choices that were represented by the adults within the building. They still had to turn the lights off when they didn't need them. They still had to be sure that the computers were being completely shut down before they left the building for the evening. And so this group of students was still focusing in on the exact same things. So even if your source of energy is very, very clean, you want to be sure that you're still implementing those best practices when it comes to energy efficiency within your school building. Most of my schools here in Knoxville do focus in on the energy efficiency best practices first, because it has taken them a little bit of time to install the solar panels. We do have a number of our schools, I think it's a total of 12 buildings that have solar on them right now. However, the schools are still engaged in reducing their energy load even beyond that, and it's very exciting for the students to be able to be aware that their school is setting the gold standard when it comes to trying to reduce the amount of energy that they're taking off the grid. I live in the Tennessee Valley, and we still have coal, and so they're very, very aware of the need to reduce the amount of our reliance on coal. I do have one school that has a kiosk in it, and the kiosk is available for the students to see, so they can actually go in and see not only in their building, but in all of the other buildings that currently have solar panels on them, how much energy that building is using and what the portion of that is that's going to solar. So again, we're talking about awareness, and that's how we facilitate behavioral change, is by making them aware of this, so they ask questions, get to better understand how energy is being generated, so that they understand their role in reducing the needs.
Great. Yeah, you made a couple of great points there. I think we had a speaker from Arlington, Virginia, who worked on a net zero energy school, and she echoed something similar, that there is no such thing as a net zero energy building. You have to have net zero energy building occupants or users to make it actually work. That the behavior change and the energy consumption is such an important part of it. So that's
Absolutely.
a great point.
It's like giving somebody a tool that you don't know how to use. If you don't teach them how to use the tool, it's just a tool.
Exactly. And we'll go ahead and wrap up. I have one more question from our DC team. Marley, I went ahead and unmuted you. You can ask your question.
Yeah, this is Marley speaking. So I was wondering, you had said that you or some of the schools would give the kids energy auditing tools. What were examples of that?
The auditing tools that we focus in on are light meters, so that they can, and with the light meters, of course, that way they can see how much workable light they have, because they can ask their custodian about the wattage of a light bulb, and they can ask their custodian or look at the box to see the luminosity of it. But what they really need to uncover is how much workable light is within their space. And it'll also give them the opportunity to play with lights if they have traveling lights. And also, of course, open and close shades, so that they can see how much daylight actually impacts their particular space. So that's one tool we give them. We also give them an infrared temperature thermometer, which is also known as a temperature gun, so that they are able, it does operate under a laser, so there's a certain amount of training that needs to go into that. However, with those, that gives them the chance to really examine the temperature within their space. And my teams have been called into different classrooms in order to try to uncover why there are hot spots or cold spots, or at least perceived hot spots and cold spots within the space. And that way they can go in there and not be basing their understanding of that room on somebody's feeling, because honestly, I always feel cold. It doesn't matter how hot it is outside. But it's less subjective and more objective. So using those infrared temperature thermometers really does help them with that. And then, of course, we give them a kilowatt meter because we do want them to understand that even in a box of light bulbs, if you tested every single one of them, the wattage of those light bulbs is going to be different regardless of what it says on the outside of the box, just because of that consistency factor. And that way they can see for themselves what's going on, and that watt meter helps them to be able to translate the exact wattage of this particular appliance, whatever it is, and turn that into the dollar value associated with that use over time. And then also they can translate that into carbon dioxide emissions to take it to that next level. Those are the three primary ones that we work with because those are the ones that seem to have to address the largest issues. In the Southeast, I also work with a temperature and humidity pen because it's really humid around here, and the humidity factor is also something that is problematic. I was a former librarian. I'm always worried about humidity because I know what it does to books, but it also helps for students here to better understand what's happening in their school.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Yes. So I think we'll wrap up Q&A here. So thank you, teams, for your question. And thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your time and expertise with all of us today. I know what you shared about your experience and what. Yes, thank you. I mean, I think you're talking about what inspires behavior change is just right on target with our mission to spread energy awareness. And I know you'll continue to be a great resource for our teams as they deepen their engagement with schools and are able to bring energy consumption into their discussions with our Solar School campaign. So you're welcome to stay on and listen to the rest of the conference call, and we'll go ahead and move on to the next portion of our call. So thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much.